Oh, the one that's running? Yeah. Run for governor? Oh, well. I figured just like 2 seats at the end in case there's a couple. So I figured just always like 2 seats. Did you get one? I would like to welcome everyone to the Henry County Zoning Board meeting of Thursday, July 27th, 2017. This meeting is being televised live on Charter Channel 180 and AT&T U-verse Channel 99 and will air daily at 1 o'clock p.m. and every Thursday at 7 o'clock p.m. A video is available on demand on the county website. Now would be a good time to turn off your cell phones and laptops or set them to vibrate. Okay. If you wish to speak tonight, you'll need to fill out a public hearing speaker card. We'll allot 10 minutes for those who want to speak in favor of a case and 10 minutes for those who want to speak in opposition of a case. For example, if 10 people wish to speak, they all share the 10-minute slot and so forth. Address the board and not the audience when you come to speak. Those applicants presenting their case are counted as those speaking in favor of the case and share the 10-minute slot. At this time, we'll have the invocation and pledge by DeLander Nelson.
Stand, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for all your wonderful blessings. And we ask that you be with us in the decisions that come before us tonight. These things we ask in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May be seated. This meeting is now called to order. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I have a motion by Mr. Nelson. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. All right, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, I have a motion. There's no minutes to approve, right? Excuse me, that's right. Okay, yep, sorry about that. So we're not going to have a motion to approve the minutes. We're going to move on to staff comments.
Yes, Madam Chair. The following items advertised for the July 27th, 2017 Zoning Advisory Board meeting have been postponed to the November 9th, 2017 Zoning Advisory Board meeting, RZ 1710 and COMP-AM-1702 for Kevin and Alicia Waters and Richard and Judy Stahl for property located at 58 Old Stagecoach Road.
Okay, if we'll go ahead and go to the agenda items, and the staff will call the first case.
Case number COMP-AM-17-05. Danny Bell of McDonough, Georgia requests an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located at 650 Jonesboro Road in land lot 98 of the 7th District. The property consists of 0.734 plus or minus acres, and the request is to amend the future land use map from low-density residential to commercial. The property is in District 3 and will be presented by Stacy Jordan Rudisil, Chief Planner.
Good evening, Madam Chair,
Good evening.
board members. The item before you tonight is located on Jonesboro Road, and this is at the intersection with Kelly Road, and it's in the front of the subdivision that's named Monticello, and it's at the corner of Thomas Jefferson Drive and Jonesboro Road. As indicated in your exhibit books, as well as illustrated on the overhead The property is zoned R3, which is a single-family residence zoning district. The applicant is proposing to rezone and to convert the existing single-family structure into an office-type structure. The future land use map, as illustrated, shows the subject property hatched in green, and you'll note that it's indicated in the yellow color, which stands for low-density residential. And this future land use map is Henry County's policy guide. The red indicates commercial land uses that are designated for surrounding properties, and that's anticipated by this map as development between now and the year 2030. So this policy guide anticipates the year 2030. And you'll note that our policy guide for the subject property, as well as the property on the other corner, are still designated for low-density residential, even though neighboring properties along Jonesboro Road are showing for commercial land uses. So specifically, our policy guide shows this subject property and the similarly situated property on the other corner as remaining residential. And we have policies within the text of our comprehensive plan, for example, to encourage buffer zones, to discourage strip development, continued and scattered development, to encourage developments like this to take place in a nodal type development and not along in a strip type fashion. It also says that we are to maintain the integrity and nature of existing residential neighborhoods. So it's pretty clear that our policy is to protect residences such as this subject property that's located at the very beginning of the Monticello subdivision, and staff is recommending denial of the applicant's request.
Okay. Do the board members have any questions for staff? Mr. Wisher?
Or maybe a comment, but I think that when this subdivision was first zoned, I think in 1988, and I recall that because I was here at that time, but I believe that this lot and others that front onto Jonesboro Road were at one time 1.25 acres, even though the balance of the subdivision was zoned R2, I believe, which
Yes,
was,
sir.
I think, a 30,000 or 28,000 square foot at that time. And at that time, nobody had any physical engineering plans to know exactly where where Jonesboro Road was going to be. So it was somewhat of an educated guess as to leave some room for for the future taking of that property by governmental action. So that's I think that's all I had.
Okay, any other questions for staff from the board members?
Just one quick question. So
Okay.
it's right there, where you have the 4, you have it hashed out in 3 and 4. What's actually at that? Is that just a vacant lot?
Actually, that small area between the bottom of that green hatch indication and the white indication for the roadway itself is the portion that Mr. Risher referred to as having been taken for the widening of Jonesboro Road.
Okay.
So that's not a separate lot.
Oh, okay. All right.
So my question is, so the county owns that?
The state took it.
The state-
and
the state-
It's
the state
now
road.
right of way for Jonesboro
Okay,
Road.
okay. So then, so technically, that property faces a state highway.
Jonesboro Road is under the jurisdiction of the Georgia Department of Transportation. It has not, to my knowledge, been issued a number designation but it's under the jurisdiction of GDOT.
Okay, all right.
One more
Mr. Nelson.
question, Stacy. Let's go behind the three, that area back there, does the state have a portion of that as well?
No, sir. In other words, on the side of the subject property within the subdivision, or are you talking about the other corner?
The other corner, where
It's
it
the
goes
same
back?
situation, that's correct.
So
That's the portion that was taken by the state for the
Okay.
widening of Jonesboro
Will you
Road.
take your pen and point to that just to make
Absolutely.
sure
Yes.
we're on the same page? Yes, correct.
So that is the area that was taken for the widening of Jonesboro Road.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir?
So my last question is, so those are more like just empty parcels right there, is that correct?
Actually, since the road has been widened, it's the shoulder of the road
It's
and
the shoulder of
possibly the
Okay,
sidewalk.
okay. Okay, so it's, all right. Anyone else have any questions for staff? Okay, if we could call the applicant to please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
My name's Danny Bell. I live at 335 Winding Stream Trail in Hampton, Georgia, 30228.
Okay, do you have any, anything you'd like to add to staff's comments on behalf of this case?
Yeah, there's three things on the agenda tonight. They all deal with this subject property. We're going through the order, but I would like to give a little bit of background on why we're even here as far as the reason for the rezoning. I've lived here in the county for 26 years. My commute to work has always been an hour to an hour and a half. It's currently an hour and a half. I work for a firm that has about a 30-year track record. I've got an attorney that has a firm that has over a 30-year track record. We're basically just wanting to use this house as a place to go and do our job as an office. It's not going to be heavily trafficked. He and I both may see one client a week at the office. And given that background, that's kind of why we're here tonight, is I'm just trying to bring two firms to Henry County that otherwise are not here for the purpose of quality of life for myself and for him. Now, given that, the land use map, this property was on the market for over 6 months as a residence. They weren't able to sell it as a residence. I think the reason for that is because if you've got 3 kids and a family dog and you're living 45 feet from Jonesboro Road, you're either going to be missing a dog or a kid soon. There's a lot of traffic. I think the residential appeal of the house is not going to compete with some other properties that are for sale in the county. So I looked at it as an opportunity to be able to keep this property owner occupied rather than somebody in there that is not the owner. My purpose was to be able to use it as an office for myself and one attorney. I believe that with the other properties along Jonesboro Road, even the 3 lots that come out on Monticello Lane, the house used to be 125 feet off the road. It's now 46 and a half feet off the road. All of those people on Jonesboro Road lost a half an acre off of a 1 1/4 acre lot. So now they're all sitting at 3/4 of an acre or less. One of the things about this lot is it also lost property on Thomas Jefferson Drive. They took 8 feet there, further diminishing the size of the lot. So I feel like that using the building as it sits, no modifications to the exterior, no modifications to the lot, as an office should be considered for this proposal.
Okay, any board members have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Risher?
Yes, Mr. Bell, was this your home at one time?
No, it has not been my home. The home was built in 1992, and I believe it had one tenant for the majority of that time, for over 20-something years. And then when it got put on the market, it didn't sell as a house. I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you.
I guess I either have a comment or maybe a question maybe a comment that leads into a question. So is there, so I see there's a 1, 2, 3, 4. So the lot number 2, does someone live in that lot? Is there a house there?
Well, I think, a map without the 1, 2, 3, 4 on it would be better, because I think the 1, 2, 3, 4 actually are tied to Forsythia Way, Hydrangea Lane, Formosa Lane. They really don't have to do with the map. There is a house where the number 2 is. That would be the lot behind the property.
Okay, is there a buffer between that house and the house that you're speaking of?
There is a very mature Leland cypress tree line. I would say those trees have to be 20 years old. They're over 25 feet tall. When you stand on the back porch of the house that we're discussing and look towards the house next door, you cannot see the house. Neither can they see ours. And
so, just so you know, when we look at these requests to change the future land use map, it's, you look to see, that possibly maybe you won't be there in 5 years. Let's say that you decide to relocate somewhere else, and that's a possibility. Well, this follows the property, and so that property, anybody else could come in there and maybe not be good neighbors. Those are things that we have to think of. So we have to think of things for the future and what we're putting ahead of those folks that were there first. So that's why I ask about if there was a house there, how would they want, an office or, behind their house. So that's kind of why I asked that question, because we have to think about who was there first and why it's there, and look at the future land use map and, figure out if this is something that, on the surface, oh yes, because we heard another case, it was the same way. It was on a major, highway, and, there's residents that just didn't feel like it needed to be changed. So those are things that we have to look at and think very hard about as far as, the future of that corridor and where we're going with that. So, and saying that, I just, we have to think about, if you're not there, and somebody else moving in that's not such a good neighbor, what it's going to do for those that are around.
Well, if I can comment to that point, that's why I chose not to pursue any other zoning than the office. I didn't want to go with C1, I didn't want to go with C2, I didn't want to go with C3, because my intent, I'm in my mid-50s, the lawyer is in his 30s. We're looking at this as a long-term commitment to use this place as an office, and that's why I only wanted to pursue an office zoning. I'm going to be there at least another 15 or 20 years. He's probably got another 30 years of his practice. And, we don't want to touch the property. We want to leave it like it is and use it the way it is. So anybody who comes behind me and wants to do something different with the property is going to have to come back before the board and pursue some other type of zoning rather than office.
Well, I'm not just thinking of office too. There's different things that could go in there that would fit into
Right.
the definition of office. And I had a question for staff, but it just went over my head, so that's all I have. Anyone else have any questions or comments?
I have a couple
Mr.
questions.
Nelson.
Who actually owns the property?
I'm the owner of the property.
You're the owner. And what type of office do you plan to operate, or would you operate?
I'm a finance professional.
Okay.
I work for a broker-dealer.
Okay.
And then the lawyer does estate planning.
Uh-huh.
So it's basically just the two of us.
And on a weekly basis, what type of traffic do you actually get?
He may see one client a week, and I may see one client a week, and that would be heavy traffic for us.
Okay. Now, is this property actually facing Jonesboro Road or facing Jefferson Drive?
It faces Jonesboro Road.
Okay.
So the entrance would be Jonesboro Road? DOT's not here. Is there a driveway?
Staff is recommending to keep the drive on Thomas Jefferson because the property, the whole length of the property on Jonesboro Road is a turn lane already.
I don't think that would be a very safe entrance coming from Jonesboro Road.
No.
And
And-
also the I think that the driveway is already on the side street now anyway.
Correct. And we don't want to change anything more than we have to. I mean, we would have to add maybe 1,100 square feet of cement to add a couple of parking spots. And it would be nothing more than somebody who wanted to add a basketball court to their existing driveway, really, for the basketball goal. So we don't want to disturb anything more than we need to.
Okay, any
And
other-
it's, just to add to that, it's been my observation since May when I purchased the property to go over and mow the grass and to do other things, that the other entrance into the subdivision seems to be the more heavily traveled entrance, because when they widen Jonesboro Road, you can only make a right turn out of Thomas Jefferson. So people are actually using Monticello Lane so they can access Jonesboro Road both in an east and a westerly direction, which is what I've been doing. I've been going to Monticello to make a left turn back onto Jonesboro, and you can also make a right turn from there. So I see the traffic going less on Thomas Jefferson and more on Monticello versus the other way around.
I'm totally confused about where the drives are. Can we go back to the map?
Yes, ma'am. So if you'll note the location of the subject property on this aerial map as the area hatched in green.
Okay.
And the number 3 happens to be superimposed on top of that. Jonesboro Road has a raised median such that you cannot make a left from the intersection of Thomas Jefferson Drive and Jonesboro Road. So it's a right in, right out only. So if you wish to go east on Jonesboro, one would have to make a right and then go down to the median break and make a U-turn and then head back east on Jonesboro Road. Or alternatively, one could go through the subdivision and come out here at the intersection of Monticello Lane and Jonesboro Road in order to take advantage of the median break here.
Okay, so that's what you were talking about, that you went around that way to get out.
I made copies of the same map without all the lines on it. And I don't know if you can zoom in on that. Who's the zoomer? There we go. All right, the subject property is right here, and that's the drive going to Thomas Jefferson right there at my fingertip. But if you come out right here on Jonesboro Road, this has got a divided median. So if you come out, you can only go right. If you come down here to Monticello Lane, you can come out here and go left and right. So it's been my experience in watching traffic when I've been there since May that it appears more people are using Monticello so that they can access Jonesboro Road in either direction. Plus, it's further away from the light, so things kind of clear up by the time you get to Monticello.
So it looks like there's a house across the street from your...
Across which street?
Right across the street there.
Right here?
Uh-huh.
Yes,
There's a house, someone lives in that house?
someone does live in that house.
Okay. All right.
And then all of this across the street here is all commercial. This is a medical practice. This is a daycare. And obviously Kelly Road, this is a whole center of commercial activity.
Any other comments or questions for the applicant?
I got a question.
Okay.
Are you affiliated with Double Eagle Land Development?
No, sir.
Okay, I was wondering because the tax commissioner's office still shows the ownership of that property as Double Eagle.
I believe when I pulled up the property record off of the Q Public website, it shows me as the new owner.
And sometimes it does take some time for them to update. So it may be possible that you're seeing something that was done previously and not an updated version.
Said it was updated July 27th of this year. Just curious.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, Ms. King?
Leading back to something you mentioned earlier, and whoever can answer, whoever has the answer, you mentioned that the OI zoning could allow for something else besides an office. What would that be?
Yes,
Like in-
OI is for office institutional. So in addition to office uses, one could conceivably have institutional type uses, such as an assisted living or a hospital, nursing home, something institutional in addition to straight office uses.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments for applicant or staff? Okay, you may be seated. How much more time do we have?
6:45.
Okay, so we have 6 minutes and 45 seconds for those who want to speak in favor of the case. All right, I don't see anyone coming up. You want to speak in favor of the case? In favor?
I wrote down that I did. Hi, I apologize. I did not know there was a backside to that paper, and I just picked the bottom two. Is it okay for me to take a new thing?
Okay, if you get into the microphone so we can hear you, just state your name and address.
My name's Virginia Haygood, and I have a house at 225 South Drive in Hampton, and I did sign up to speak. I did not know there were two sides to your agenda. I apologize. I just picked the bottom two. I've got the wrong thing. Is it okay for me to get another piece of paper?
You want to speak in favor of this case?
No, nothing about this case.
Okay, then you need to be seated so that someone else can come and speak about this case.
Okay.
You can get another sheet, yes, to answer your question, yes. Anyone else want to speak in favor of the case? Okay, anyone want to speak in opposition of the case? If you want to speak in opposition, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Waylon Cannon, 120 Thomas Jefferson Drive.
Just one at a time, and then,
I've,
because y'all share 10 minutes.
I've lived in the Monticello subdivision since it was built. I was the second owner into that building. The house in question was actually the model home when that facility was actually built. When I moved in, there was 4 houses in that subdivision. I was actually there when they actually did the expansion of Jonesboro Road. And they actually took the land for those houses to expand Jonesboro Road. We actually had a pretty decent entry, brick entry that said Monticello. Once Jonesboro Road was widened, that entry was never put back to say, hey, Monticello subdivision identified as a subdivision. Monticello Lane was actually the second entrance to that subdivision. Thomas Jefferson was the main entrance to that subdivision. Once they widened Jonesboro Road, it took away the ability to turn left into Thomas Jefferson Drive. Now you either have to do a U-turn at Kelly Road to come back to turn into Thomas Jefferson, or to come into Monticello Lane. And the thing is, Monticello Lane, part of the issue with Jonesboro Road was they were going to change the grade, and it still has an issue with line of sight. And there have been several pretty interesting accidents out at that intersection. So even though they're stating they're not going to have a lot of traffic coming in, there's still folks, people coming from Jonesboro Road are going to have to come through the subdivision in order to get to 650, or they're going to have to do a U-turn at Kelly Road to come back into the subdivision. The other piece about expanding it to put additional parking in there, it's a relatively short distance from the driveway for that house to the intersection of Jonesboro Road and Thomas Jefferson. So once they make that and people make that right turn into that subdivision, you're pretty much right on top of the driveway for that house. So if you put additional parking and you want to have traffic coming there, it's going to get interesting, because there's also a transition, because when they raise the road, you actually have a drop to come down into the subdivision. Talking about changing from rezoning the houses, there are several buildings across the street. Yes, there's one that's medical's been vacant for about 2 years. There's another building to the right of that, I think is 649. That building has been vacant for over 2 years. Both of those were houses. They were rezoned, and they've been sitting empty for at least anywhere from 1.5 years to 2 years to 3 years. There's another house a little further down the street that's at 917 Jonesboro Road. It was rezoned from residential to commercial. Big, beautiful house, nice pond in front of it. They came out, they totally redid it. I think there's been 2 people in there since that place was rezoned. It's been sitting empty now for about 2 years. All of those houses on the opposite side of Jonesboro Road, or which would be the south side of Jonesboro Road from Monticello subdivision, all of those properties are empty. They were all rezoned. People have been in, people have been out, and now they sit vacant. You have a shopping center, Magnolia, then you have Riverwalk, which is at Willow and Jonesboro Road. You have the Magnolia, which is just sits east of Kelly Road on Jonesboro Road. And then you have the Kroger Shopping Center, and then there's McDonough West across from the Kroger Shopping Center. All of those facilities, all of those commercial areas have plenty of parking, and they also have plenty of vacancies. Monticello subdivision, we're talking about the very first house into the subdivision. All the rest of these houses are single lots. They're not part of a subdivision. The last thing we need to have is anything commercial sitting on the very front of that subdivision. I don't think anybody wants to have it. I'm not going to say they can bring a business into McDonough. And to some of the points we raised is that what's to say that he's going to be here for the entire time, and he leaves 5 years from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, and then somebody else comes in, and then we're sitting talking about medical or some other places coming in here, and then we've already started that ball rolling. We've rezoned once, we rezoned to something else. Next thing we know, we could be like, Willow and Evans Road. We now got a Shell station sitting on the other side of a subdivision. Last thing we need to have is anything going commercial sitting in the front of the subdivision. I don't think anybody wants to come to the subdivision, look at it. And Granny said he wants to keep the building the way it is, just expand the parking. I don't think it's ideally. I think the piece behind it is we say this is what we're going to do now, but what happens a year from now, 6 months from now? I think like some of the points that the commissioners raised in regards to this is that this could change down the road. We don't know what's going to happen a year from now, 6 months from now, 8 months from now. But the thing is all this stuff should stay residential. We went through this when they did the road widening and they started taking property and condemnation and the whole 9 yards out here. And then everything for the most part out there was residential. And then everybody started fighting because the road got widened. And then we started having commercial property, or rather residential properties changing to commercial. So you have this hodgepodge stuff down there. Last thing we need to have, they're saying this is the gateway to McDonough, or to the square. I don't think we want to have Jonesboro Road looking like 1941 or Riverdale Road and the rest of those where you have just anything going down the highway. I think we want to try to really plan for what we're going to have out there and where we're going to have it. If it's going to be residential, everything should be residential. There's some other blocks out there that they can actually put commercial in. It's part of the planning, and I think that's what we rely on you guys for, to say, hey, look, let's make sure that how we do this in a manner that is going to take care of and look after the people that we're representing or you're representing, to say, hey, look, we want to make sure that you don't have something out here that's going to impact you now. Like I said, I'm originally from California, and I've been here since '92. I'm not going anywhere. Okay, I'm the fifth house from the corner. So I see that house every time I come in. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Barry Kincaid. I live at 105 Thomas Jefferson Drive. I'm the first guy that bought a house in there and been there the whole time. And my friend Waylon has summarized everything very well, and I appreciate your comments so far, especially about, you got to look to the future. He probably has very good intents, but no one knows what's going to happen 5 or 10 years from now. I've still got 3 at home. I've raised 5 kids here. We don't want a different kind of development. We want it to stay a home. The reason that home is vacant today is because Miss Royster died. That's the only reason. So we don't want that to change. It should be a family. And if you have a question about quality of life or what goes on there, ask me. I see the traffic every day. And it's what it is. It's busy on Jonesboro Road, but the neighborhood is fairly quiet, not too bad for a big subdivision. So we just like to keep it residential. We don't want to go down the slippery slope of opening this up to a commercial property of any kind. And if you got a question about quality of life or anything else there, I'll be glad to answer it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Therese Walker. My husband Michael Walker's here. We live at 1090 Declaration Court in the back of the subdivision. And I'm not very good at this. This is my first time. But first of all, I would like to know, I would like it verified that this property has been changed from Double Eagle to Danny. And I think if it cannot be verified now, that this should be held off. Because if you can't verify it, we don't know for sure. Secondly, I would like to know, we had to sign a codicil with Mr. Wall when we bought these homes. In that codicil is a line that businesses cannot be run out of these homes. If you rezone this, does it void that whole codicil? He told me himself that that codicil had to be filed with the county, and whether you had access to it or not, it still adhered. I think that that should become an issue. Having lived there 21 years, I can vouch for the fact that more and more people are using the entrance at Thomas Jefferson than Monticello, because it has become impossible to make a left-hand turn out of Monticello safely. We live in the very back, and we use Thomas Jefferson, and we make a U-turn so we can see down the hill to see the traffic coming to make the U. And the last thing I'd like to ask is, if this were your subdivision and your whole life were tied up in your home, how would you feel? I ask you to represent we the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? We have 22 seconds.
Yep. Would you guys like to have your neighborhood changed, you know, the front of it? You know, we're going to start putting business in front, and that goes from that, and then another one comes up, and it's, as the man said, it starts the ball rolling, which it doesn't stop then, because money talks. I mean, the turnaround right there is dangerous. When I come
Sir,
home,
I have to cut you off because that's your 10-minute allotment.
Yeah.
But can you please state your name and address for the record?
Michael Walker, 1090
Can you-
Declaration.
in the
Michael
mic-
Walker, 1090 Declaration Court, McDonough, Georgia.
Thank you so much, very much. Okay. Do any of the staff, excuse me, any of the board members have any questions for the applicant or staff? Mr. Risher, do you have anything?
Yes, I'd like to find out more about what the buffer is like. You said that there's a large tree buffer.
Should I ask the applicant to come back forward, Mr. Risher?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, I'm
ask the
sorry.
applicant to please come forward. So you're here to answer questions that the board would have of you, any additional questions?
Okay.
Already illustrated on the overhead is the conceptual site plan, and it does show the area that would be impacted. There's a 20-foot building line that's illustrated, but the buffer that's required is 40 feet. And so not the next hearing, but the next hearing will be about the variance, and a variance will be required for the buffer.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Risher?
Yes, I think so.
I've got a picture, I know probably in the materials you got, it doesn't show up very good. This is the original picture of the buffer, of the Leland cypress. It's this bottom picture right here. You can see the Leland cypress across the line. And off of the back deck here, if you look at that house, you can't see the house, so. and
Any
vice
other
versa.
questions for the applicant from the board members? Okay, you may be seated. All right, you can call the case, please.
Case number COMP-AM-17-05, Danny Bell of McDonough, Georgia, requests an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located at 650 Jonesboro Road in Land Lot 98 of the 7th District. The property consists of 0.734 plus or minus acres, and the request is to amend the future land use map from low-density residential to commercial. The property is located in District 3 and was presented by Stacy Jordan Rudisil, Chief Planner.
Do you have a motion for this case?
I make a motion that the property stay the same as what is shown on the current land use plan.
Okay, the staff recommends denial, so the motion is to keep it as and go with staff's recommendation of denial. Do I have a second? Have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Okay, motion carried. All right, next case.
Case number RZ-17-11, Danny Bell of McDonough, Georgia, requests a rezoning from R2 Single Family Residence and O&I Office Institutional for property located at 650 Jonesboro Road and Land Lot 98 of the 7th District. The property consists of 0.734 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a professional office. It's located in District 3 and will be presented by Stacy Jordan Rudisil, Chief Planner.
Good evening, Madam Chair,
Good evening.
board members. The case before you tonight, it's the same subject property as our previous hearing. Again, the property is zoned R3, which is the same as the subdivision in which it's platted. Across the road is the intersection with Kelly Road and Jonesboro Road. Much of that property is within the city of McDonough. Much of it is unincorporated Henry County. There is a mixture of zoning districts in this area, and much of the development is vacant. The applicant has indicated that they propose to transition this single-family structure into an office structure, and staff has evaluated the applicant's request and found it to be out of character with the area. Again, if we can take a look at the future land use map, we'll note that the subject property is hatched in the green, and the yellow indicates a low-density residential, which is the county's policy guide. So at this time, the county's policy guide is for that subject property, as well as the property on the opposing corner, to remain residential, just like the subdivision in which it's platted. There is a lot of property on Jonesboro Road that is indicated for commercial, but it seems specifically this future land use map did not include this subject property. Also, having been platted with the remainder of the subdivision, there may be restrictive covenants that bind the development of this subject property, and for that reason, staff has advised the applicant that this subject property, if it's rezoned, would have to be replatted outside of the Monticello subdivision in order to move forward with the transition from a single-family home to any other type of use. In other words, it's out of character with the area. For that reason, staff recommends denial of the applicant's request.
Any questions from board members to staff? Mr. Richter, you have anything?
No, I don't have any.
I just have a clarification. The future land use map shows, and I'm not familiar with where it says, Forsythia Way, Hydrangea Lane. So it shows all that as commercial. What's existing now, it says it's rural agricultural. Is that just vacant property there?
Yes,
across?
ma'am.
Okay, so that's just vacant.
That
Okay,
is
so there's
correct.
no houses right there. Okay.
That is correct.
Okay, I just needed that clarification. Thank you so much. Anyone else have any questions for staff? Okay, if the applicant please come forward. State your name and address for the record one more time.
Danny Bell. I live at 335 Winding Stream Trail, Hampton, Georgia, 30228.
Okay, was there anything you'd like to add to staff comments?
I think that, this is a domino effect, and I think the rezoning to office would be in line with the rest of the red on Jonesboro Road. I still feel that, the diminished lot size of the property, these were supposed to be lots that were the largest lots in the subdivision at 1.25 acres, which has already been mentioned. Now they've been reduced to 3/4 of an acre. I don't find that any different in character than those lots that are adjacent to Monticello Lane, nor the property across the street. You know, if you look at the piece of property in person, the corner of Thomas Jefferson and Jonesboro Road has almost every utility you can think of in the front yard of this building. The gas, the cable, the phone, the power, has made it undesirable, in my opinion, for a family. So I really can't add anything other than that.
Anyone else, any board members have any questions for the applicant? Okay, you may be seated. Okay, we're going to allow it, the rest of the remaining time, 8 minutes and 32 seconds for those who want to speak in favor of the case. In favor of the case? Okay. All right. Okay, and those who want to speak in opposition of the case, we'll allot 10 minutes for those who speak in opposition of the case.
Yes, sir.
All right, this is an aerial shot of the subdivision entrance. So you see the two houses. All right, this is the property that they're talking about rezoning or putting his office in. This is Kelly Road. So this is when anybody has to come out in order to turn in here. You have to make that. You have to do a U-turn to come back into the subdivision. If we shift down, again, talking about all the rest of this property, yeah, there are power lines. This is Monticello Lane, so this is normally where folks are having to make a left turn off of going east on Jonesboro Road to make a left turn to come into the subdivision. And again, as we said, there's an issue with line of sight here, which you're saying people are coming out of Monticello, Thomas Jefferson to come up to do the U-turn. But I just want to check, because there's a couple of people since said they weren't really unsure about what this actually looked at. I mean, hopefully this sort of clears up. This clears up some of this. But yeah, like I said, there are a couple of trees on the back side of that house. There are, as he said earlier, there is and it's been there since the property was out there, where the gas distribution for the subdivision sits in the corner. There's a telephone pole. They actually, when they put a power distribution hub down near Willow and Jonesboro Road, and they put new poles in to run because Henry County expanded. You needed to have additional power, so they did run power lines down the north side of Jonesboro Road, which is the same side that Monticello subdivision is on. So yeah, there's some utilities and stuff out there. But even looking at this overhead, actually driving that and then looking at it at ground level to take and drive into that location, especially with Monticello Lane, that line of sight, I think within I think it was the first month that after Jonesboro Road opened up, we had a fatality accident. Actually 3 fatalities in the same accident at that location. And then there's been several other accidents since then, just because that line of sight issue turned in there. Granted, he said he's not going to have a lot of traffic coming in there, see 1 or 2, customers a week. But I really think that this is something that, looking at down the road, is if he doesn't stay there, somebody else comes in and this changes, and then we have something larger, somebody else having more customers or people coming in, that this is something that is going to be an issue. It doesn't allow readily access to that location if you're coming east on Jonesboro Road. So a lot of cases, if you actually get on the Google, a lot of times Google will tell you need to go somewhere and turn around and come back in order to get into that location. So really critical pieces, I think that the traffic issue, the keeping it residential with the number of folks that are coming in out of there now versus adding something to it keeps up keeps the cops from having to respond out there for an accident and paramedics and the rest of that. So we don't want to add any issues out there.
So please state your name and address for the record again.
Waylon Cannon, 120 Thomas Jefferson Drive.
Thank you. And sir, if you could do the same.
Barry Kincaid, 105 Thomas Jefferson Drive. Just wanted to speak to you. We were questioning about the buffer, as if there was a good buffer already existing there. There is a decent little piece of cypress between those two homes, the first two homes there, as you see them. It certainly is not enough. My neighbor's not here, but I'm telling you, she would think it wasn't enough. And I will tell you that both the neighbor across the street, who could not be here because of work today, Mr. West, as well as myself, there will be no buffer between us and sight of line to that property. There is no buffer. We're across the street. There's nothing in between. So, and if we're going to be concerned about, the gentleman mentioned, you know, that might not be a property worthy of having children there. It was. There were 3 kids raised there. And I think if we're going to be concerned about raising kids in the neighborhood, we don't need to add a commercial property there. No matter how good his intents are, we can't look into the future and forecast that to be good. So I urge you to do what's right for our families. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak in opposition of the case? Please state your name and.
Therese Walker, 1090 Declaration Court, McDonough. Really, the other gentlemen have summed it up well. I will say that the family that lived at that home had teenagers. The lot has been reduced since then, and even before the lot was reduced. Parking was a problem for them when all the teenagers got vehicles. It became an issue. All of the pictures you're showing are aerial, and they make it look like it has a big backyard. They had an above-ground pool up against the back of that house, and it was not a big one, and it ate up that whole backyard. It was a very small one. And those are the things that I see. The traffic, the fact that, as I said before, we signed a codicil with the walls. They should have to stand by what they agreed to in this subdivision. And we ask you to represent us as well as them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak in opposition of the case? Okay. At this time, do any of the board members have any questions for the applicant? Okay, or staff? Okay, if not, let's call the case.
Case number RZ-17-11, Danny Bell of McDonough, Georgia, requests a rezoning from R2 Single Family Residence to O&I Office Institutional for the property located at 650 Jonesboro Road and Land Lot 98 of the 7th District. The property consists of 0.734 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a professional office located in District 3. This was presented by Stacy Jordan Rudisil, Chief Planner.
I do have a motion for this case.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to support the staff recommendation to deny the request for rezoning to O&I Office Institutional.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Risher. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a second by Ms. King. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Motion carried. Next case, please.
Case number VR-17-12, Danny Bell of McDonough, Georgia, requests a variance from development standards for property located at 650 Jonesboro Road and Land Lot 98 of the 7th District. The property consists of 0.734 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a reduction in lot size, setbacks, and parking. It's located in District 3 and will be presented by Justin Kilgore, Planner 1.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Board.
Good evening.
The variance before you is the variance associated with the 2 previous cases you've heard. This is the current zoning map before you. And there's the subject property, as well as the future land use, which you've seen. The variance requests are broken up into 4 portions. The lot size is the first one. The lot is currently 31,972 square feet in size. The lot needs to be 32,670 square feet to meet the standard for the OI zoning that's being requested if approved by the Board of Commissioners. The next is for the building setbacks. The required setback for O&I zoning is 50 feet. The actual setback of the building is 46.5 feet. You see in red with the arrows there. The next one is the reduction in required parking. For an office use, the number of the parking spaces required would be 8 spaces for this size house. The applicant is requesting to put in 3 spaces and 1 handicap space. The next one is a reduction in the required buffer area for the parking lot. As you can see on the back, the parking lot would extend into the buffer, reducing it to 26.8 feet from the rear of the property line. In the case the rezoning is denied by the Board of Commissioners, the applicant will still need a variance in addition to the other 4, which wouldn't apply if it's denied, from R3 standards of today requiring public sewer. The lot is currently on septic, so it's an existing non-conforming lot already. Staff is recommending the approval of the variances for the first 3, the lot size, building setbacks, and reduction, in case the BOC approves the O&I rezoning. Staff also recommends approval of the variance for the R3 lot not being on sewer and being on septic. They'll need that no matter what. And staff is recommending denial of the variance for the reduction in the buffer area. It's also important to note that the applicant could request an administrative waiver for all 4 of the requested variances that are needed for the O&I rezoning. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff from board members? Yes, Mr. Risher.
Now, I think you said that the lot is actually non-conforming in size. Is that correct?
For the O&I, yes, sir. It would be. If it was rezoned to O&I, it would not meet the lot size requirement of O&I.
Okay, but if it remained R3, I mean, it would not have a non-conforming status, would it?
The non-conforming status in the R3 zoning is because of the lot not being on sewer. The lot's on septic. R3 of today's standards requires sewer.
Okay, well, all right, say somebody wanted to buy the lot for a home, would Henry County make them connect to the public sewer system?
I believe I'm gonna have to look to the chief planner on that one. I'm not quite sure, sir.
Mr. Risher, as it is right now, the lot is grandfathered in. So if it's used for the exact same purpose, even if it's a different owner, they would not have to make any capital improvements. But if the lot is redeveloped and if it meets the requirements of the Henry County Water and Sewage Authority for distance, then they may have to tap into sewer in that case, but right now it would not.
Okay, but it's a lawfully existing non-conforming lot, is what you're saying, and it could, and someone could just move into the house without, having to drop off their septic system and go onto the sewer. Is that?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay.
But if,
And also, can additional parking be added even under the R3?
I'm going to have to defer again. I'm sorry, sir.
It would depend on if a development permit is required just to extend the driveway. In the case that it would, and it may not, the lot is technically legal nonconforming, and they would be making a change. And so what we would like to do, and what we recommend that you do, is to approve the variance to allow this lot to remain in its current zoning with a variance for the ULDC requirement for public sewer, because it was developed on septic. And as far as we're aware, there hasn't been any issue.
Okay, so we could approve a variance to add additional parking. I think one of the residents mentioned that there was a parking problem there before. So we could allow the addition of more parking, I guess subject to a development permit.
Yes, sir.
And then we could allow it to remain on the septic tank system.
Yes, sir, that is our recommendation.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other, go ahead.
Based
Mr.
on that,
Wilson.
I do have a question, Stacy. Now, do you need a variance to add additional parking?
The only reason why the county may not approve a development permit is if the lot is legal non-conforming. Right now, the only issue with it being conforming is the fact that for today's standards, R3 requires a hookup to public sewer, and this lot is not hooked up to public sewer. It was developed in this fashion, and it hasn't been an issue as far as we know. So it's fine for what it is. But if something changes, for example, if you need a development permit, then it may become an issue. And since it's being brought before you, we do recommend approval of the variance of the requirement for sewer.
But an owner, if they bought this for a residence, they could also come before the zoning board and ask for a variance if they needed to.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
If that was required, so.
Yes.
Even if we didn't do it tonight, it could be done in the future.
Yes,
If
ma'am,
they-
that's right.
If and when they wanted to extend a driveway. So
Yes.
just the assumption that somebody would doesn't mean that we should.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's all. Any other questions for staff? Okay, the applicant, please come forward.
Danny Bell, I live at 335 Winding Stream Trail.
Anything you want to add to staff comment?
Well, I think most of the variances are imposed because of the reduction of the lot size. Definitely the square footage of the lot was part of the widening of Jonesboro Road. There's not much I can do about the size of the lot as it remains. The distance, the house used to be 125 feet from Jonesboro Road. The widening of the road has reduced that by 80-something feet. So there's nothing I can do about the 46.5 feet that it now sits off of Jonesboro Road. The parking, the entrance into the 40-foot buffer, it's really an apron. It's not really a parking spot. If you look at the map, the parking would be across the end here where it says parking spots. The entrance into the buffer is really a backup apron. It's not really a parking spot. And I think that's pretty much the three things. So again, you know, the parking, the reduction in the parking was strictly not to disturb what is there already. It's mandated that you have a handicap parking spot, so we went with that and 3 additional spots. The square footage of the house is what drives those spots, which would mandate 8 parking spots. I didn't really see the need for 8 parking spots when you only have 1 person a week come to the business. So, you know, and I feel like the Leland cypress are a good buffer. If that doesn't work, then obviously a privacy fence of some type would have to be considered.
Okay, any board members have any questions for the applicant? Okay, you may be seated. Anyone else want to come up to speak in favor of the case? All right, are there any of those want to come and speak on opposition of the case? Okay. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Day 105 Thomas Jefferson Drive. I'm not sure why we're discussing this again. It seems like it's all moot to me. I'm just a common guy, I guess. But while we're discussing hypothetically changing, having a variance for this property that should stay in the subdivision as a family home. If it's a family home, am I correct? And do I understand it does not have to have a variance for its septic or anything like that we're talking about? Even if it changes owners, as long as it stays in the original family home situation, we don't need to change anything about the septic. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, would you want me to respond?
Normally, we don't, this is just a comment
Okay.
period, so we don't. have
Okay, well, that's
purpose
the
of
way I
letting you
understand
can
it. I
ask-
believe that's
I think your
what they were
understanding
saying.
is
Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. So it seems like we're spinning our wheels a little bit here, but just one more time, I'll say it for this particular application. We need this to stay a family home in a family neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Walker, 1090 Declaration Court, McDonough, Georgia. Was it 4 spots or 5?
We didn't hear you,
Was that 4 spots, parking spots, or 5?
I don't.
Was it one?
Reduction to 4, that's correct. It was a
4?
reduction to 4. Yes.
Not including, was that including the wheelchair? Okay, so 4
Yes.
spots.
Right.
A parking spot is how wide?
This is more of a comment period, so we just,
Yeah, okay.
it's not an interaction with the
okay,
board. That's right.
Said parking spot, 8 to 10 foot wide per vehicle. So that's what, 8, 16, 24, 32 feet going towards the other house. And you're going to have concrete parking all the way down. Yeah, it is going to encroach on their visibility, the people across the road looking at cars parking and stuff. I don't understand where you only have 1 or 2 people a week coming in. It sounds kind of fishy to me, but that's up to you guys. I don't think y'all would want it in y'all's subdivision. If you live in a subdivision, we want to keep it like we signed the paperwork, a subdivision, not a store up front or office or anything like that up front. As far as the turnaround down there, when I come in to pull, little swag coming up towards McDonough to pull in across, making a left into the subdivision, the little turnaround they're talking about turning around, if anybody's there, I have to wait until they turn because you can't see the oncoming traffic and make a safe turn there. But there again, it's up to you guys. I don't think you would want it in front of your subdivision or start the ball rolling to, have stores and everything else. See you later.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hey, I'm Becky Kincaid. I live at 105 Thomas Jefferson Drive, and my only comment is, like some other people have said, there are several offices, several buildings for sale in the area. I'm not sure why he would want to buy a residential home in my neighborhood, to turn into a business when there are other opportunities for purchase of a place to bring his business to Henry County. So that's my only point. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak in opposition of the case? Okay, I don't see anyone coming up. Okay, do the board members have any questions for the applicant or staff?
I have it.
Okay, Mr. Risher, so if I need to bring the applicant forward, I just need to know.
No, just the staff.
Okay.
And here again, I'm trying to get this, straight in my mind. If it's, this is a non-conforming size lot or slightly not, but at the same time, it's already on a functional, septic tank system. So do we really need to act on any of these variances for it to be used as a home?
As Madam Chair said, an applicant in the future could bring the request to have relief from the requirement for public sewer in the future if it's needed. So at this time, it is not necessary for this board to approve any of these variances because this property is grandfathered in. It is legal non-conforming for its current use in its current situation.
Okay. All right.
I
Mr.
do have a
Nelson?
question for you, Stacy, and based on that, now the applicant is coming forward and he's asking for these variants. Just to be on, I guess, a even board here, he would be the same as someone in the future coming to ask for a variance, and that's why we are asked to make a move on that, correct?
Yes, sir. What was indicated to us is that the applicant bought the property, and so in the case that he's denied for his proposed use, the use of the property will remain for a single-family home. And in the future, if he requests a building permit or development permit or a change in a significant fashion, at that point, he may be required to have a variance from the requirement for public sewer.
So based on that, we probably should move on his request, whether we deny or approve, correct?
That's our recommendation, yes.
Okay. All right. And I had another question I can't think. Oh, I know exactly. What prevents the applicant from using this as a home office?
A home occupation business license requires an applicant to live at the address as their primary residence, and the only persons who can operate the home occupation would be persons who actually live at this location. So if he had plans to rent a portion of the structure for another office, that would not be allowed as a home occupation.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, please call the case.
Case number VR-17-12, Danny Bell of McDonough, Georgia, requests a variance from development standards for property located at 650 Jonesboro Road and Land Lot 98 of the 7th District. The property consists of 0.734 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a reduction in lot size, setbacks, and parking. It's located in District 3, and it was presented by Justin Kilgore, Planner 1.
Okay, do you have a motion for this case?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the first variance, whereas planning staff has recommended approval of the variance for the non-conformance to development standards for the R3 lot for not having a sewer system. And I think that would be the only one that would need to be acted upon.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the variance for nonconformance to development standards for the R3 lot not having sewer access. Do I have a second?
A second.
I have a second by Ms. King. Any discussion? Mr. Peterson.
But the rest of it, are we denying, or what are we doing on both?
Okay, so we, because that's just a recommendations from staff, so all he's saying is the only thing that we're approving is that. So the other two would not have to be acted on.
Okay.
Necessarily, because it's just a recommendation of staff. Is that correct, Stacy? Because the motion is just to approve one thing.
The motion to approve one thing would be a motion to deny the other requests.
Okay, so right. So, should he amend his motion to say deny the other three, because there's 4 requests?
Mr. Risher may, if he chooses.
I'll amend the motion to deny the other 2 variances.
There's 3. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's, wow, well, see, that's the thing, because there's the request is a lot size, building setbacks, reduction off-street parking, and encroachment on parking area, but your recommendation has nothing to do with those 4 requests.
That's exactly right.
So that he's denying the 4 requests, but approving, that's what I'm saying. Does he need to amend his motion to say, deny the 4 requests, but approve the planning staff recommendation of the nonconformance of development?
Now, for clarification's sake, let me just reiterate what Justin has said, is that our recommendation is for approval of 3 of the variance requests that are necessary to develop as OI. in the case that the Board of Commissioners rezones this property, and in addition to that, we also recommend approval of a variance to eliminate the requirement to hook up to public sewer in the case that he's denied and he remains R3. So staff did recommend approval of all of the variance requests except for the request to reduce the buffer. But as Mr. Vischer stated, we did indeed recommend approval of a variance if he remains R3.
Okay, well, if I can just add one thing, since the Board of Commissioners also have to have an action when this comes before them, I would amend my motion to approve the second variance, which says staff recommends approval of the variances for front setback, for reduction in required parking, and lot size requirement in the event that this O&I zoning was approved by the Board of Commissioners.
So I have a seconder for the first motion. Is the seconder in acceptance of the amended motion, Ms. King?
Yeah, yes, I'll second both.
Okay. Well, that's going to say you have to approve, his amendment.
Yes.
Okay. So I have a second on the amended motion. Any discussion?
So right now, Mr. Richard has made a motion. We approve the first one along with staff recommendation. We approve the second one along with staff recommendation, and we deny the third one, or that's just off the table?
That's correct, deny the third one.
Okay, so if we could just help me.
Restate the motion, please, Mr. Risher.
We stick with what the staff has recommended. If we just say it that way, then we'll know exactly what I'm looking at.
Mr. Risher, you want to amend your motion? Because you didn't really say denial. You didn't.
Yeah, I'll amend it again, and that staff recommends to deny the requested variance for encroachment into the buffer area. So I would add to the motion to deny that request.
Okay. The seconder, Ms. King, are you in agreement with that? Okay. Any discussion? Okay. Mr. Peterson, are you satisfied with that motion? Okay. So in setting the motion as staff, you pretty well, basically he's going with staff recommendation.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure everybody understands where we're going.
Can you make that clear to us, please?
Okay.
By variance request number?
Okay, so I need we have a motion and a second. Ma'am, you're going to have to be quiet, please. This is not for you for discussion. This is the board. Okay, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hand. All those in denial? Okay, motion carried. Okay, next case, please.
Case number COMP-AM-17-06. Herman Talmadge of Hampton, Georgia requests an amendment to the comprehensive plan for the property located at the intersection of U.S. Highway 1941 and Georgia Highway 81 and land lots 189 and 196 of the 6th District. The property consists of 39.443 plus or minus acres, and the request is to change the future land use map designation from commercial and office institutional to high-density residential, and from office institutional to commercial. The property is located in District 2 and will be presented by Stacy Jordan-Rudisill, Chief Planner.
Good evening, Madam Chair,
Good evening.
board members. The request before you at this time, the subject property is located at the intersection of U.S. Highway 1941 with its intersection with State Route 81. So this area that's relatively triangular shaped, that's hatched in the green, this is our subject property. The case before you at this time is a request to change our future land use map as illustrated in your exhibit books and also is illustrated in our overhead projector. So the subject property is hatched in green. The pink indicates an office institutional land use designation, which would support a request for office institutional. The red is a designation that stands for commercial, and that would support a rezoning request for one of our commercial zoning districts, and we have 3. However, the applicant's rezoning request, which we will hear in the next hearing, is for commercial on the corner and for multifamily residential to the north. And so the request is to change the corner piece from the pink color office institutional to red, and to change the area to the north of that, which is designated for both pink and red, or office institutional and commercial, to high-density residential for up to 16 dwelling units per acre to support the applicant's request for rezoning to multifamily residential. Staff has evaluated the applicant's request, and we have noted certain policies that are within the text of our comprehensive plan, which may inform our recommendation. So if I can direct your attention to page 2 of your staff report, in the middle and toward the bottom, we have land use policies, one of which is to strive for gateways that contribute to a sense of place. This location is just south of the county line and the city limits of Lovejoy, and so this is very much a gateway into Henry County and to the city of Hampton. Another policy is to promote nodal and clustered developments of commercial development and to discourage the basically sprawl along major thoroughfares. And so if you'll note on the overhead, this intersection of US 1941, which is a major arterial, with the intersection with State Route 81, which is also a major arterial in its own right, may be planned to become a nodal type development. And in fact, the southeast corner and the southwest corner are both already designated for commercial land uses. Now, for a reason I'm not familiar with, the northeast corner, which is our subject property, and the northwest corner are indicated for office uses, which typically is a transition down from a nodal commercial development. And so in our evaluation of the applicant's request, that does seem reasonable. So we're looking at a policy that also says to support increases in residential density in areas where community design standards, environmental constraints, and available infrastructure capacities can satisfactorily accommodate the increased density. State Route 81, US 1941, these are major highways. 1941 can handle a lot of traffic. It has it's a median separated highway. It has infrastructure that's located up and down this highway. This subject property can receive sewer service as well as water service. So it's high profile, it has the available infrastructure capacity, and it's located in an area that can handle the intensity of development as it's being proposed by the applicant. So for these reasons, staff recommends approval of the applicant's request to change our future land use map in this fashion.
Okay, any questions from board members for staff? I don't hear any. I'd ask the applicant to please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
William Talmadge, 215 Talmadge Road, Hampton, Georgia, 30228. I'm here on the...
Anything you'd like to add for staff comments?
No. Thank you so much. He did a very wonderful job. Stacy and I just met this evening. That was great. I know Dante had to be at his child's, I think it's open house this evening. So,
For some reason, I can't hear you. Can you?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you, Stacy, for your wonderful words, and thank you guys for giving up your evening to be here. Thank you so much. Yeah, I would like to add just a little bit of background about the property, and for anybody else who's not familiar with the property, and maybe I can help explain our reasoning for doing this. Okay, so our family acquired the property in 1940. You can't see it really well here, but that property that Stacy referenced across the 1941 south of Lake Talmadge subdivision there, that's also part of the Talmadge family property on Upper Woolsey, as well as everything farther north that is zoned commercial, and then around Lake Talmadge subdivision headed all the way back west until you hit Panhandle. I actually can, do we have the projector thing I can?
Map. You can point to the map if you want to.
That is not going to work. Okay, well, kind of. So, the property as a whole is this. There. The lake in the center, to give a size of scale, is a Clayton County reservoir, roughly the size of Lake Spivey. There's 11 miles of frontage around the lake itself. So, about the genesis of how I got here this evening was our family was approached about a year ago from the city of Lovejoy, asking us to annex into Lovejoy. I guess we were naive and didn't think that was going to be that big of a deal, because everywhere else, most of the time when people say Talmadges, they go, oh, you guys are from Lovejoy. It was before Lovejoy was in Clayton and all of that. Actually, 1941, for a brief history, and I'm sure the chair knows this, that's the first 4-lane paved highway in the state. It extended from our farm to the Bell Bomber plant in Cobb County. And in addition, it's named for my grandfather. Herman Talmadge Highway extends from Clayton County through past the racetrack down below it. But so what we've never really paid attention to the land use maps and things of that nature for many years. It's just been private property where we've hunted or fished and other things over the years. My father passed away about 2 years ago, and we began looking at, as my younger brother, who's off serving our country right now, his platoon is getting ready to go do something at the moment, and then my younger sister, who's graduated from college, and then my older half-brother, who does reside on the farm full-time. And we started looking at what we were going to do with the property long-term. It's a very large place, and it's going to take us a lot of time to figure out what to do with the property. But what we began to see is what made the most sense for us was to start with this according to the tax commission maps, I don't know what y'all have with you, it says it's about 122 acres is what we're paying taxes on. When we did the survey, we've actually been paying taxes on 12 acres of land that we gave to the state for the right-of-way a long time ago, but since 1956. And we're not really sure how that became commercial or why that was office industrial. Here's the new survey. But we thought that moving the commercial down towards the intersection would make more sense overall, just given that you're going to, eventually as growth continues, you would imagine that would be where you would see more of the commercial development at the intersection. And then moving farther up, where the cut-throughs are, which is, I don't know if we'll be able to see it very well. Stacy, do you mind pointing where the cut-throughs are on the 1941 to gain the medium breaks? So there's a medium break. There's one there, and there's one farther up, right next to the commercial. See, it's a little, yeah. There's another medium brick there, and actually right in front of where that the multifamily would be, it's actually 5 lanes at a point there. So it has more than enough capacity for. That was why that particular parcel area was chosen for this particular rezoning application. Then. Other than that, we're, I guess the best way to put it is my grandfather's buried on the farm. My father is my aunt, my uncle, and my grandmother has a headstone there, but is still gone. It's still with us, thankfully, and we're not going anywhere. We've been here for a long time. We have apartments just north of us on 1941 that do actually touch our property. They've been there for 15 years. We've never had any problems with the tenants. It hasn't been an issue. Part of the reason that we're doing this is because we do want to build some commercial and be able to support commercial. As trends in home buying change over time, people are not looking for the same lots. We have millennial generations that are looking for different types of housing options. We're anything that would go in here would be Class A. It would not be a lower level development. These are going to be our neighbors for a really long time. I've got a little one on the way, and I want him to be able to enjoy the farm, and I don't want it to change the aesthetic of what we're used to. We certainly will respect and provide a lot of green space within everywhere. We want to see something that's very nice, because I'm going to end up shopping at whatever we put over here, and it's going to be, it's our neighborhood. If you've got, I guess, any questions, but other than that, that's pretty much what I have to add to it. I'm sorry I'm not the most skilled person speaking at this. This is not my normal role. So thank you.
Thank you. Any board members have any questions for the applicant? Sting, you have anything?
I do. You had mentioned that you had been approached by someone, I guess, who wants to develop this property.
Yes.
Do you have a vision of that yet? Do you have any ideas as to how that is going to look in the future?
Yes. Well, no, not to develop the property. What we were approached about was when Lovejoy was interested in annexing it. And once our county commissioner came to us, who had been elected in District 2, she came to us and said, we'd really like y'all to stay in the county. Once we figured out that was a controversial decision, we immediately decided to stay. There wasn't a consideration. We didn't want to put the county in a situation. We understood Mr. Jockstetter, the county attorney, made clear some of the concerns from the county, and we heard him out, and we said, okay, great, we'll come and sit down with the county and work together. And through this process, we plan on working with the school system as well as every other department at the county. Another point of historical thing in the past, we actually donated a fire station to the county years ago. It was on Upper Woolsey Road. I think the vacant building's still there. It was left abandoned, and I believe under Chairman Harper it was given back to the family. Just they weren't using it. But we've tried to be as good a stewards to the county as we can be over the years, and we've worked hard to try to do as best we can by the county, and we want to continue to do that, and we're certainly open to any feedback. Thank you so much.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant from board members?
I have one question.
Okay, Mr. Nelson.
It was mentioned somewhere a multifamily
Yes, sir.
construction. Where would that be on
The overhead that's illustrated at this point, the pink that's illustrated to the right, that's your commercial area that's being proposed.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's actually to the north. It's the highlighted area in yellow. That is where the multifamily with development is proposed to be located.
Okay. Can you elaborate on that at all, Mr. Talmadge, in terms of what type of multifamily, or how do you plan to?
We would like the multifamily to tie into the commercial space, to be a walkable community for the folks that are living within the multifamily area. In addition, what will eventually have to happen for this property to be developed in total would be a greener kind of community farther north. Here would be single-family homes here, and it'll involve us having to demolish and reformat the entryway here, because you'll have to cut in another entrance for those family homes, as well as this piece of property is immediately adjacent to our other entrance into the farm, which is on the other side of 1941. About 20 years ago, we ran sewer down 1941. There's a pump station here that ties into the Clayton County Water Authority and sewer. In addition, we ran sewer and water under 1941 to the north side of Lake Talmadge subdivision. We privately funded that just for future, any ideas that we may have. Also to service the restaurant and the little biscuit restaurant that's there, as well as that gas station that sits there now. The gas station's currently vacant, but that's one of the reasons that we carved out some extra space here, was to make sure that whatever went in here, there was adequate space to make sure that there would be a buffer from any type of, you wouldn't want a nice community buffering up to like a gas station with the back. So that's 5 acres to give you an idea of the space of what you'd see in between. In addition, certainly we'd want to respect all property lines along the back and any other area where these are our neighbors.
Like a multi-use, because that's more like the up and coming, what folks are doing with their properties is where, like you're saying, it's walkable, livable communities that's close to,
Yes.
your shopping, but it's walkable, it's green space, and it's the vision of the future, basically, so that folks don't have to get in their cars and drive across or go to
Fayette County,
wherever.
they're referring to it as new urbanism at the moment, which is, it's a 50-50 mix between green space as well as the developed property. So the residents that live there have ample green space that would also eventually wind up being county, as well as the community's responsibility, depending on where they fall within the area. But that was currently, I can't share this to the extent, it is a large project. We have 3 different land planners that we're going through the process right now for the entire remaining portions of the farm as we start to scale in to look at what we do with the rest of it, how we protect our home place, how we would keep the general aesthetic of what we would do and create the kind of community environment, similar to some of the other developments you've seen in the South Metro area. A Sarenby or a Pinewood Forest come to mind as the most closely connected to what we're trying to do long term.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Aren't you?
You mentioned new urbanism?
Oh, I took a term that Dan Cathy used that description for Pinewood Forest. I actually don't even know what it means.
No, I got it. I understand.
Sorry,
So,
that's
a gentleman named Andres Duaney promotes that. I know what it is.
Oh, I don't know, actually. Yeah, sorry. I stole it from I'm plagiarized. It's from the Citizen newspaper in Fayette County. Dan Cathy said it, not me. So.
I think it's helping us have a vision of what you want.
Okay,
and my
all right.
vision, and I called it, mixed use, but it's where it's, you have residents and then shops and things, and a lot of folks have that.
And as I'm sure, I think many of y'all are probably familiar, you have to go, that kind of a process is going to involve Greta, as well as several other levels of state work, as we're also working with the Department of Economic Development at the state level for that. That's a much multi-year process to do that, and we will probably suffer through some downturns and some upturns as we go through that process, similar to, the farm itself is roughly the size of the original planned city of Peachtree City. So there are 47 miles of road internally on the farm by itself.
Oh, wow. Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? If not, you may be seated.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll allow the remainder of time for those who want to speak in favor of the case. This is for those who want to speak in favor of the case. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Virginia Haygood, and I have a home at 225 South Drive, which is directly across from the yellow area, which, anyway. I'm not against the commercial rezoning. I'm for that because I do understand that it already has the water, electricity, the gas, etc. That's as far as I want to go. So I have 2. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak in favor of the case? You've got.
To clarify, in regards to the multifamily, and one of the reasons that, I don't think I clearly articulated this, one of the reasons why it's necessary when you're developing commercial is that you have to have people shop at the stores that you're going to build and support that area. And as we're going to try to bring quality retailers to Henry County, and as you enter into the county, we really want to define that border between Clayton and Henry and let people know you've entered into Henry County, your Speedway is a few miles away. You have the airport, I know, was recently rebranded as the Speedway Airport. We want to make sure that everything from the line up to the Speedway keeps what we are capable of controlling. Obviously we don't want to tell anyone else with their parcels of land what to do, but we would like to create a very nice, welcoming environment to anyone who's entering into Henry County from Clayton County to really know where they've made it here, because it is kind of our, front door to a lot of people that are coming through, people that are passing through to Spalding County, or people that are going farther south, or folks who are getting off 75. Thankfully, the hot lane has, alleviated some of that traffic, but for people passing through. But a lot of people do still use 1941 as an alternate route, as I'm sure many people know, as well as 42 on the other side. So thank you so much.
Anyone else want to speak in favor of the case? Okay, I don't see anyone come up. Anyone want to speak in opposition of the case? Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Carol Purcell, and I live at 244 Lovejoy Road, Hampton. We are on, would you put that other map up? We live on Lovejoy, the little Lovejoy Road right there, and we're the first section of the yellow piece, and then we have 5 neighbors that live down the road from us. All of this is going to back up to us. I don't object to the commercial property at all, or any of the commercial. What I do object to is the high-density residential. If there's going to be 16 houses per acre, that is not consistent with the area, because you see Lake Talmadge has bigger lots, and that was developed years ago.
Can you bring the microphone toward your face? Yeah, thank you, just so we can hear you. Yeah.
You want me to repeat that?
No, go ahead. You can continue.
Okay, but because Lake Talmadge was developed, and it is not high density, it is low density. This is not consistent with the area, because the houses on Lovejoy Road are houses on pieces of property. Stanfield Place is a subdivision. I don't object to low-density property and with single-family homes. I don't object to any of that. It is the high density that I object to. And I don't think, if it wasn't in the use plan to begin with, I don't understand why you would change it and have high density with residential right across it. High density, because we need low density. And a nice subdivision would be fine, but not the high density subdivisions, because we've got plenty of those in Clayton County that we look at every day. Some right up the road from us as you go into Clayton County past Stanfield Place. They are little bitty houses on little bitty pieces of property. And they haven't developed well either. But anyway, that's what I object to. If it could be low density and not high density. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak in opposition of the case?
Hi, my name is Virginia Haygood, and I have a property at 225 South Drive, directly across the way. She's exactly right that we're low density, and that's being asked to go to high density. And there's a couple things I wonder. First of all, Williams, is he Herman that it says is going to come tonight? I don't know. And the next thing is, he said that they didn't approach Lovejoy according to the newspaper. They did. They were one of 5 landowners that approached it, and according to your attorney, it was largely inhabited, and it wasn't likely to be the case for long. Obviously, that's true, because this was the March or April paper that I was given, and here we are in July. About the low density, when I look at your own website, you have some points, and I don't know if I'm allowed to give them to you. I wrote the same thing I'm presenting on 6 papers, one for each of you.
You can present that to us.
Okay. To them, or?
Staff, would you need a copy of that? Okay.
Sorry, I just made 6. It didn't occur to me. On my 7th, I actually needed it. One of the things you pointed out was, that he pointed out, is how nice it was to live to the apartment complex. Actually, his road to the Lake Talmadge property back there is blocked off from it. But on your website, you said you were always concerned how they would be affected, so I looked it up. Right now, you can see it. Mount Carmel has 604. I don't know how many would come from the subdivision, the high density. There are their current scores. It just came out last week for the Department of Education. And 1,203 is how many elementary schools there are in the state of Georgia, so you can see their ranking. Hampton Middle, same, currently 842. I don't know how many students would come. And their current ranking, you can see, out of 534 middle schools. Department of Education numbers. Hampton High, 822. I don't know how many would come out of this website, this high density, and it's 281 out of the 417 high schools. The population of the school, the student numbers came off each school's website. And your website says that you estimate there would be 2.5 children per household. Well, if I go 2.5 times, I believe he said 16 residents per acre, that's 800 children, if I did my math right. If he said 6, then it's, now I have to do that again, but 6 times 2.5 times 120, and whatever that came out to be. But I did believe that Mr. Talmadge said 16, if I heard it right. What I was wondering is, they happened to have drawn their map in yellow, which sort of made it look like it matched the one across the street, which it doesn't. Does there have, I realize that once you say you can have the zoning, that's the zoning, and then it's open all the way to 16 per unit, per acre, whatever. Is there a lesser zoning, a lesser density, so that it doesn't open it up to 16 residents per acre? And that I don't know. That's for you. I don't know. But that density decries the part about the schools, because right there's a school. Then the other thing that I was wondering about is, let me see. Oh, you can see the crime rate. Since they approached, or didn't, I don't know how it came about, I'm just reading the paper, Lovejoy, you can see how Lovejoy's crime rate was as per their population. On the other side, I put Hampton's, because Hampton's right there. And what their crime rate was, I put Griffin, because it's the closest to us, what their crime rate was, and it just so happened, they mentioned Peachtree City, Serenbe, Mr. Caffey's place, Pinewood. I have 2 residences, well, 1 land and 1 residence also in Fayette County. But the Peachtree City population and the crime there, and as you could see, there was very little that would make being part of Lovejoy desirable to any citizen of Henry County. Anyway, I just wanted you to see the current numbers I pulled up, and I appreciate your consideration. Thank you so much.
Okay, anyone else want to speak in opposition of the case? All right, do any of the board members have any questions for the applicant or staff? Hearing none, if we can ask, please call the case.
Case number COMP-AM-17-06, Herman Talmadge of Hampton, Georgia requests an amendment to the comprehensive plan for the property located at the intersection of U.S. Highway 1941 and Georgia Highway 81 and land lots 189 and 196 of the 6th District. The property consists of 39.443 plus or minus acres, and the request is to change the future land use map designation from commercial and office institutional to high-density residential and from office institutional to commercial. The property is located in District 2 and was presented by Stacy Jordan-Rudisill, Chief Planner.
Okay, do I have a motion for this case?
We do. I'll make a motion that we go ahead and go with staff recommendation to approve the request for the comprehensive plan amendment.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
A second.
A second. So motion to approve by Ms. King, a second by Mr. Nelson. Did I hear that?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Motion carried. Next case, please.
Case number RZ-17-12, Herman Talmadge of Hampton, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to C3 Highway Commercial and RM Multifamily Residential for the property located at the intersection of US Highway 1941 and Georgia Highway 81 in land lots 189 and 196 of the 6th District. The property consists of 39.443 plus or minus acres, and the request is for commercial and multifamily residential development. The property is located in District 2 and will be presented by Stacy Jordan-Rudisill, Chief Planner.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Good evening.
Board members, the subject property before you is the same as the previous hearing. This is the associated request for rezoning. And so the triangular piece, half 12 acres of the subject property, is being requested for rezoning from RA to C3, which is a highway commercial zoning district. And it is the most intensive commercial zoning district that Henry County has. However, because of its high-profile location, the fact that US 1941 is a 5-lane road with a divided median, that it's on the intersection with a state route, that it has excellent infrastructure capacity, it seems reasonable for the applicant to make this request for the corner to be rezoned from RA residential to C3 highway commercial. The portion of the subject property to the north of the corner is 25 acres, and the applicant is requesting a rezoning from RA residential agricultural to RM, which is a multiple family residential zoning district. In the previous hearing, we've recommended that the policy guide change for this portion of the subject property to go from office, institutional, and commercial to being a high-density residential designation. And that designation is for a range between 6 and 16 dwelling units per acre. And so not to say that the applicant's request should merit 16 dwelling units per acre, and in fact, the applicant is requesting 12 units per acre. And so for 25 acres of this portion of the subject property with a density of 12, that would yield 300 units of multiple family residences. And so in the staff report, and this is page 4 of the staff report, there is a section regarding schools. And so for the 300 dwelling units, which corresponds to the 12 dwelling unit per acre that's being proposed, the school does assign a factor of 2.5 when calculating the number of school-aged children. And so we're expecting 750 school-aged children that would range between elementary and high school. And so that would require 30 extra classrooms. And so if modular classrooms are added by the school board, we're looking at a cost of $25,000 per modular unit. In the future, because it's the policy of the school board to add entire wings and not just a number of classrooms, but in the future, a permanent classroom would be estimated to cost about $300,000 per classroom. And so this is the impact that we're looking at for the school system. But I would also like to state for the record that development does pay impact fees, and a large portion of that impact fee that's paid goes toward the school board and for an increase in the school's infrastructure. So staff has evaluated the applicant's request. I would also like to state for the record that this location is within the Highway Corridor Overlay District, which was recently passed by the Board of Commissioners in March. And part of the reason that we recommended this Highway Corridor Overlay District is so that we wouldn't have to reiterate so many conditions. So it affects the types of development standards such as access management, such as facade requirements, such as landscaping and so forth. So there are only a handful of different conditions that staff recommends in addition to the Highway Corridor Overlay District, and we do recommend approval with 5 conditions as listed in page 4 of your staff report and also as illustrated in the overhead. And I would be pleased to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for staff from board members? Ms. King?
I just have a comment. I mean, I do see on the conditions you have the density limited to 12.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Nelson, did you?
That was my question. You are holding them 2 to 12 units per acre?
Yes, sir, we do recommend that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, anyone else have any questions?
And C3, exactly what type of, what does that entail? What do we have there?
C3 is the most intensive commercial zoning district that Henry County has. It's a highway commercial zoning district, and this location is at the intersection of a U.S. route and a state route, so it seems to lend itself to that purpose. It's the least restrictive regarding use of any of our commercial zoning districts. So we're looking at any type of retail use, any type of restaurant use, office use. That's allowed under the base zoning of C3, but the development of the subject property would be tempered by the requirements of the Highway Corridor Overlay District.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I'd like to ask the applicant to please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
William Talmadge, 215 Talmadge Road, Hampton, Georgia, 30228.
Okay, and I was going to say, you can fix that mic so you don't have to bend down so much if you can try to get it.
Oh, there we go. It kind of come up
Okay, there we go.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so it's a little bit more comfortable to speak.
It does. Sorry about that. Okay, guys. Thank you again, Stacy, for going through that. So I just wanted to make clear on the high density part, just as we're going through this again for the multifamily space. And yes, it was right. 12 acres, the unit is what we don't anticipate ever needing any more than that for the development. And I'd like to draw comparisons for anybody who's been around the metro area to developments like Avalon and Alpharetta, developments like Town Brookhaven and Brookhaven. That's what we're striving to do here. We're trying to make this as nice of a gateway to the county as possible. The reason why the commercial C3 for that designation on what he was talking about with, I guess, the flexibility for use of it is, if you've ever been through Avalon, there's these wonderful little restaurant boutique kind of in the middle of the thoroughfare with the rooftop things and the nice places to eat. It's a nice, they're little 2-story places with a rooftop kind of outdoor patio thing for yogurt shops and stuff. We're trying to be open to some innovative ideas from retailers that would want to be a part of what we're trying to do here with the property and what we're trying to create as this entryway into the county. In addition, and then I guess I think we run through anything else. Yeah, I think that is probably it. Does anyone else have any specific questions about either what we're thinking about for the multifamily or for the commercial space?
If you have any questions, if you're finished, I can ask the board if they have any questions for you.
Okay, well, and then yet again, the multifamily is necessary for commercial, and in addition, the new urbanism, as that idea that's the purpose of that, is to draw in young families that are looking for a different way as development transitions over time, that are looking for not the post-war era housing like plats that we've seen and developed around the suburban Atlanta area for the last 50 odd years, but are looking for a different lifestyle that they became accustomed to in either their college town or wherever else they're moving into the area from. Or if they're transitioning, hopefully keep some of our folks, young folks who move up to Atlanta or move to other areas to stay closer to home as something else, to offer them a different alternative within Henry County. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any board members have any, can I stay?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This is a chance for board members to ask you if they have any questions,
Okay.
further questions about this case, about the rezoning. And I think a new word that we can say is chic urban.
What?
Chic urban?
Chic urban.
Chic urban.
Yes.
How about that?
Chic.
How about we make up a slogan?
Chic-
And that way people,
Chic
chic
urban. That will definitely.
Chic urban. How
I will-
about that?
I will put that as part of
Yeah,
the.
chic.
I will make sure that is
Chick-
part of the short
chick
list.
urban?
For the,
I don't know.
For the names. And like I said, you guys will probably see some more.
I'm
of
just
me
making
in
up
the
words
very-
while I'm up here, since I didn't want you to get in trouble for plagiarizing another term. You know.
Oh,
what I'm saying?
thank you.
We were just
Thank you.
making up something.
I did eventually attribute it, so it. I guess it was-
But you did say you gave reference to where you got it, so that was good.
Yeah,
Anyone
thank you.
else have any comments or questions for the applicant? Okay, you may be seated.
Thank you.
Any other folks that want to speak in favor of the case?
Hello again. My name is Virginia Haygood, and I have property at 225 South Drive, which is across the street. On the commercial at the triangular point, I'm in favor of that. Diagonal across the street happens to be commercial. A landscape company, a paintball company, and Fix It for Your Mower or something else. As I recall, that part of it I'm in favor of.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to speak in favor of the case?
I did think about one thing to add in regards to the school impact. That was something we certainly considered, and we did speak extensively with the school system about this, to Mr. Pickett over there, who was the person we interacted with. The 2.5 number is a number that the school system just assigns to any house that you're building in Henry County. It doesn't necessarily go along with any information. So when they just 300 units, thus you get 2.5 per. Certainly, many of these units will be one bedroom. They will be different styles of layouts. I just don't believe that we will see anywhere close to 750 school-aged children attending schools within Hampton. But I certainly think that we're trying to attract good people to the county, and they would be active parents within the school system. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak in favor of the case? Okay, now we'll call up those who want to speak in opposition of the case. Please state your name and address for the record again.
Okay. My name's Virginia Haygood, and I have a house at 225 South Drive in Hampton, Georgia. My understanding for that rezoning, and that's why I asked if there was just a slight step down in the density for another rezoning, is because it could go up to 16. In fact, Mr. Talmadge himself said 16 at the first, even though now, and I am reading number 3 where it says it's limited, but I'm not sure your zoning makes that something they have to abide by, the 12. If your zoning allows all the way up to 16, which it does, so that would be for you all to say what it really applies to, but according to the information I read on your website, it doesn't require, it just suggests that. And number 4, on a gated community, now, as nice as that is, this is what's across the street on Panhandle Road, as I believe Mr. Talmadge referred to earlier, just today, because I went by. 1, a yellow sign that says, "Drive like your children live here." Number 2, help keep Lovejoy clean. I don't go through any neighborhoods that have these signs, except for across from this gated community. Mow your yard, and one for a 5K run. So I think that there's possibly, as nice as that might be, there's no guarantee it will be. There's no guarantee just the Peachtree City has the 8th best schools in Georgia. That would be rated number 8. Hampton doesn't. And that's what this would go up against and affect the schools. Anyway, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak in opposition of the case?
My name is Carol Purcell. I live at 244 Lovejoy Road, Hampton, Georgia.
I would like to request that the density be reduced to 6 houses per acre instead of 12. I just don't think it's consistent with the other things, and if it's going to be a gated community, I hope it has a 10-foot fence all the way around it to the back of our property where we don't have people strolling through our property to go to the restaurants at the end of the at the end of the road. I don't have any objections to anything except we just don't need a lot of houses in a small area in our community. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak in opposition of the case? Okay, this time, does any of the board members have any questions for staff or the applicant? Stacy, I have just for the record, you said that this was an area that was already approved by the Board of Commissioners as a highway. What did you say, a corridor? What was the word you used?
Yes.
It's like an overlay district?
That is correct. An overlay district was adopted by the Henry County Board of Commissioners back in March. And it was for most every major arterial in Henry County. And that includes this area, and the subject property is part of that. And so the Highway Corridor Overlay District is very comprehensive, and it gives upgraded requirements for a variety of different development standards, such as access management, in other words, spacing of driveways, so forth, like that, regarding what the building materials will be and what the buildings will look like, and roof pitch and so forth. It gives upgraded standards regarding landscaping and so forth, and so it serves the purpose of, we don't have to put so many zoning conditions on each individual one piecemeal as they come in, but rather we recognize that these areas along our major thoroughfares, they are gateways to our community. And so these standards, they do apply to this subject property, and in addition to the development standards, there are certain uses that Mr. Nelson had asked about before. And so while the C3 zoning district that's being requested by the applicant would allow any type of commercial use, retail, restaurant, office, and so forth, the Highway Corridor Overlay District that you mentioned, it does prohibit several uses, and just a few would be self-service storage, mini warehouses, salvage and junkyards, pawn shops and so forth, automobile repair and maintenance. So these are just a few of the types of uses that would be prohibited no matter what the zoning district is for a particular piece of property.
That's great. And then some of that too is buffer requirements, and like you said, landscape requirements.
Yes,
is a little
ma'am.
bit more stringent than what we're used to.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. But if you would like to see something specific, then it would be appropriate to include that as a zoning condition.
Okay. Are those conditions listed on the website that folks can look at for the overlay districts?
Yes, Henry County's, the Highway Corridor Overlay District is part of Henry County's Unified Land Development Code. And Henry County subscribes to municode.com. And so there's a link to that on our website. And so you can access our Unified Land Development Code. And municode.com does allow you to do keyword searches. So you could search for Highway Corridor Overlay District, and it would bring you to that location.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for staff? If not, we're going to call the case.
Case number RZ-17-12, Herman Talmadge of Hampton, Georgia requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to C3 Highway Commercial and RM Multifamily Residential for the property located at the intersection of U.S. Highway 1941 and Georgia Highway 81 in land lots 189 and 196 of the 6th District. The property consists of 39.443 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a commercial and multifamily residential development. The property is located in District 2 and was presented by Stacy Jordan-Rudeseal, Chief Planner.
Can I have a motion for this case, please?
We do. I'll make a motion that the board goes along with staff recommendation to approve the applicant's request with the stated conditions as laid out, as we're looking at.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicating by raising your hand. Motion carried. Okay, thank you. And I don't think there's any more cases, so motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. Adjourn. Thank you.